Welcome to the Northern Care Alliance NHS Foundation Trust. I'm going to take you through all the health and safety information you need to know before you commence any work in our hospitals. First of all, working in a hospital obviously offers a series of challenges that working in other environments don't. You must be aware at all times that the comfort and health of patients is everybody's top priority, and you must carry out your work accordingly. Let's look at these first before we run through the safety issues you will be more familiar with. Hospitals are full of people who, by and large, are not feeling their best. Either they are ill themselves, or they are visiting friends and relatives who are. There are lots of babies, children, elderly, and ambulant disabled people around too. So you can see why working here is different. Hygiene and infection control are crucial, so your clothes and PPE must be clean. You, like everyone else, must wash your hands and use hand gel often. You should never touch clinical waste or sharps. Clinical waste and sharps are disposed of in special containers. Should you come across any discarded sharps or clinical waste, report this to the nearest NHS staff member for assistance. Remember, a bin in a hospital is nothing like a bin anywhere else. Dust can also compromise infection prevention as well, by causing problems for patients with respiratory problems. You must always use integral dust collection equipment. It is always vital to check before working with any power supplies in a hospital, as it is literally a matter of life and death. If you inadvertently cut the power during an operation or to a high dependency unit, it could lead to the loss of life. Electricity runs everything from X-rays to sterilizers to ECGs and MRI scanners. It is hard to think of anything in a hospital that doesn't need it. So you must always discuss any isolators or disconnections with your NCA site contact before working on any power supply. Never undertake an isolation or switch power off from a switchboard without a permit being in place first. MRI scanners are strongly magnetic, so please observe the warning signs and do not enter these areas with any metal tools or equipment, or if you have a heart pacemaker. If your work takes you outside, especially if you are close to ambulance routes or accident and emergency entrances, you must remember to keep all approaches completely clear at all times. Loading bays are also busy and potentially dangerous places to work, with vehicles frequently coming in and out. You must be mindful of patient privacy. Communicate with hospital staff when working in patient areas before you start, and let them advise you on what is appropriate. Not all hospital patients are physically unwell. Some will have mental health problems of varying severity. Never leave tools, access equipment, or wires lying around where members of the public can reach them. Loud noises and unexpected activity can also be extremely distressing for people with mental health disorders or dementia, as well as for babies and young children. Medical emergencies take priority. If a medical or clinical member of staff requests that you stop work, make your area safe and then report back to your NCA contact. Hospitals use many types of medical gases. In pressurized cylinders, these obviously need to be treated with care, as they can explode if heated or punctured. Due to the problems of evacuating patients, hospital fire alarms use two types of alarm tones. If you hear a continuous alarm, you must evacuate the area immediately. However, if you hear an intermittent sounder, this means there is potentially a fire in an adjoining zone, and you should follow any instructions given by the local fire warden. Start to think about making your work area safe and preparing to evacuate. You will need to take extra care where people gather, for example, cafes, entrances and corridors. Try to schedule your work around peak times, such as the start and finish of the day, lunch times and visiting times when more people will be in these areas. Work areas need to be cordoned off, and the possible effect on your activities on others must be given the highest consideration. That's it for the specific information. So we will now review the more general safety procedures that apply whenever and wherever you are working in the NCA. We are determined to create an injury and accident-free environment for everyone visiting and working on our hospital sites. Incident and injury-free simply means we believe anyone who works for us or visits our hospitals has the right to go home in the same condition they arrived. This statement includes all visitors and contractors, and we expect everyone to commit to our health and safety objective and support the NCA in achieving our aim. When you work for the NCA, we rely on you to follow our rules, and you can rely on us to support you with everything you need to be able to work safely. If we can do something better, let us know, and we will review and let you know what we have done. Never feel that you have to carry on working regardless of areas of improvement that you may identify. If you think the situation is unsafe, we would rather you stop working and tell us why you think that, rather than deal with the aftermath of an accident, especially in places that are open to the public. When you arrive at one of our hospital sites, you must complete a safety induction if you haven't done so already, and then sign in using the electronic contractor management system located within the estate's building entrances. You must then make contact with your designated NCA site contact. At the end of your shift, you must again use the electronic contractor management system to sign out of the site. That way, we always have a record of who is on site if we have to evacuate due to an emergency. The NCA have invested a significant amount of time and resources into improving fire safety across our estates. For this reason, it is critical that you ensure that any work you are undertaking does not compromise the integrity of any fire compartments. If you are unsure about whether this applies to you, please request to review our fire safety drawings with your estate site contact. It is also equally important to ensure that you have reviewed the site asbestos register, which will be discussed in further detail throughout this induction. Every job you do must be covered by a risk assessment and a specific safe working method statement. These are not just bits of paper. Everything you do must be done in accordance with the methods set out in these documents, and you have to have them with you at all times. Of course, if circumstances change during your time working with us, then you need to stop work and reassess the situation in consultation with your NCA contact. You must also have proof of competency before the work starts. If you have any concerns, please raise these immediately with your NCA contact. If you are doing anything which is particularly high risk or specialist, then you must provide proof of competency. Examples would include electrical systems, pressurized systems such as boilers, medical gas lines, hot works, and working at height. A specific permit will be required. These last for a single shift and are issued to one named individual person. Permits to work must be signed off at the end of your shift by both yourself and your NCA contact. Remember, any electrical tools that you are using must be in good working order, PAT tested and either battery powered or 110 volt centre tapped earth supply operated. 230 volt supply operated tools shall only be used due to valid technical reasons. The use of such equipment shall be agreed and documented with an estate's competent person prior to any use. Any essential 240 volt equipment must only be used with a residual current device to guard against electrical shock. You may be given keys or access cards to enter any restricted areas, and these must be returned at the end of your shift. It is obviously very important to keep doors to restricted areas locked at all times, and make sure you do not mislay any keys. Right, emergency procedures. These vary from site to site, and you will get specific local information like where the assembly points are before starting work. If you find a fire, raise the alarm at the nearest break glass call point and do not try to fight the fire. Our rule of thumb is only use fire extinguishers to keep an escape route clear. If you hear a fire alarm, leave your tools and belongings where they are so long as they are not blocking exits or corridors, and leave by the nearest fire exit. Follow the fire exit signs. Don't use the lifts, shut doors behind you, go to the assembly point and report to the NCA site contact. Do not re-enter until you are told you can do so. This is a good time to mention a few things you can do to stop a fire from starting. Make sure your work area is kept clean and tidy. Don't use faulty electrical tools and don't overload power points. Store flammable materials correctly, and remember all hot works require a permit to work. Portable halogen lights must not be used for task lighting. If you bring a vehicle onto one of our sites, please drive with extra care and stick rigidly to the speed limits. If there is any type of accident, keep calm, call for help, do what you can to keep any injured persons reassured until the help arrives. Do not give first aid unless you are fully trained to do so. We rely on you as much as you rely on us to keep things safe, and it is particularly valuable to us for you to raise any safety concerns you may have, even if they do not relate to the job you are doing. The NCA operate a don't walk by approach to unsafe acts and conditions, which is very simple. It requires you to do the following if you feel safe to do so. If you see an unsafe condition, fix it if you can, or if not, warn others. If you observe unsafe activities, challenge them. And of course, we need to know as soon as possible about any incident, accident, or near misses. So call your NCA site contact as soon as possible. If we make or see mistakes, let's learn from them. Because of the public nature of the places we work in, I want to emphasise how high our standards of behaviours are. You must always behave politely, calmly, and safely. We do not tolerate bad language or the use of drink and drugs. Smoking is strictly forbidden as the NCA is a smoke-free organisation. You must wear the correct PPE for the work you are doing, and it must be clean and in good order. Everything you need shall be detailed in your risk assessment and safe working method statement. It's just as important to keep any tools or equipment you need in good working order. Damaged tools are dangerous, and they make the work you're doing harder anyway. Let's look quickly at a few specific areas that can cause problems. Working at height. If you have to work at height, use the right access equipment for the job, whether that's a ladder, podium step, a fixed platform, an MEWP, or full scaffold. Ladders and steps can only be used when there is not an alternative and more robust means of access available, and only in agreement with the NCA site contact. All equipment must be inspected at the start of every shift and must only be used by trained personnel. Your work area must be adequately cordoned off with robust barriers and signage. Hazard tapes and cones are not acceptable. No member of the public must be able to gain access to your work area or equipment, so don't leave it unattended if you are working at heights outside, and be aware of weather conditions. Chemicals must always be used in accordance with the COSH regulations and be included on your initial risk assessment. Safe and secure storage of chemicals is vital in all the environments we work in, as is their safe disposal. If you are in doubt, please contact your NCA site contact for guidance. Remember, hospitals have children and vulnerable persons who may be susceptible to the effects of chemicals and may not easily recognise the dangers of these, so you must keep chemicals secure at all times. Moving on now to electrical safety. We don't allow anyone to work on live electrical systems. Only qualified electricians may work with electricity, and they must have a risk assessment to cover their work and follow a strict lockout, tagout procedure, including proving a system is dead before work proceeds. Test equipment must itself be tested regularly and calibrated. You may be asked to provide certification prior to commencing work. Manual handling, slips, trips and falls. These cause the most injuries in almost all workplaces, so you must always use the correct manual handling techniques. Lift within your known capacity and always use mechanical assistance where possible. With slips, trips and falls, there are some really basic things that you can do to stop accidents happening. The most obvious one is to keep everything tidy, because if something is not in your way, then you cannot fall over it, and crucially, neither can someone else. It doesn't matter whether it is tools or equipment, materials or cables, put them away or cordon them off. Keeping your work area dry and grease-free also helps. A quick word about asbestos. It's dangerous if damaged, and unfortunately it may still be around in some of our older buildings. Obviously, if you find any, do not disturb it. Please report it to your NCA contact immediately. Prior to carrying out any work that involves breaking into walls or disturbing pipe lagging, check with your NCA site contact, who will go over the site asbestos register with you to identify any areas of risk. We take our responsibility to the environment very seriously, so waste disposal must be undertaken in accordance with current legislation and the procedures outlined in your Safe Working Method statement. With this in mind, you must report, control and recover any spillages. Stop it at the source and contain it if it's safe to do so. Leave someone standing guard and then inform your NCA site contact. If the spillage is major, the NCA will implement an emergency response plan. If you are working alone, your NCA site contact will monitor you to make sure you are keeping safe. We are now coming to the end of our induction, and we have covered quite a range of topics. However, we have one final piece of critical safety information to convey to you, and these are a standard set of rules that must be followed by everybody working on NCA premises. These rules, some of which we've already touched on, are: 1. Ensure you sign in and out with the estates team on a daily basis. 2. Ensure you check fire compartmentation and asbestos registers prior to commencing any work. 3. Ensure you have an appropriate permit in place prior to commencing any work. 4. Do not undertake any isolations without first consulting with your NCA site estates officer. 5. Do not perform hot works unless the fire or explosion risk have been eliminated. 6. Do not work under the influence of alcohol or drugs. I hope you will agree some very simple rules, which no one will have any reason not to comply with. Should you require a copy of our health and safety policies or any other policies, please ask your NCA site contact who will provide these for you. I think that's it, except to wish you well, and remind you that your safety and that of everyone around you is the most important thing.